All right. Welcome to another live stream from Locked In. I know that we haven't done an ACN this week, so I hope you guys liked last Thursday's video. I had a lot of great participation in the chat, and I wanted to continue that train since we aren't unable because of scheduling and things like that this week. So I figured I'd make a video and basically talk about a few new things that are in the market, as well as discuss some information that I feel should be talked about more, which is going to basically pertain on to all these bikes coming with wider wheels, and to actually start looking into what wider rims and spec you are getting with the bike you're either purchasing new stock, or if you're looking into an aftermarket set of wheels, how to optimize that tire choice with the tires you want to run on that bike or that may become stock on that bike, or if you're looking at the max capacity for that bike, how to kind of break it down. And I have a simple chart to discuss that. And then we're going to open up to just, questions and answers like last time. I love discussing with everybody on what they want to talk about in this chat, no matter what it is regarding bikes. So a little bit of update. I appreciate the instant comment right when I started, right at 5 o'clock on the dot. Remember to hit that like button. I really appreciate that, guys. If you want to help support the channel, I do have some awesome Slow But Look Pro merch in my Spreadshirt store. I have regular t-shirts in both men's and women's cuts, as well as a moisture wicking version of that that's great for t-shirt rides, as well as you can support the channel on Patreon with cool perks at different tier levels. So I will be giving you a slight channel update. This week, I've been putting out a few videos, and I have really cool videos for next week. This week, I did put out a video on some chrome clothing that I did receive to test, and it's really something that I've really enjoyed for bike packing or a basically t-shirt ride. It's the merino wool t-shirt they offer, and I was never a big believer in merino wool, but I am a for sure convert now, as well as their Folsom shorts. And then the video that's going to be out tomorrow, as a little sneak peek because you're watching this live stream now, is going to be a review on some Nog LED Plus lights that I've been using for quite a while. Really like the form factor and kind of the slight simple innovations they do have. So that will be premiering tomorrow, and I'll be putting that up to schedule out for tomorrow afternoon as well. And because, again, another benefit to watching the live stream, I am actually doing a talk with the South Illinois University tomorrow, and I'm going to be broadcasting ideally live on the channel for it, but if I can't get it live, I will be uploading the video. Essentially what it's going to be is I'm going to be talking about a little bit of the background of the channel. So if you've never heard of how this whole thing kind of started and why it's locked in now, that is going to be something I'll be putting on the channel again or streaming live, as well as talking about my setup and how this is not a studio. This is my studio apartment. This is my kitchen, and this is my bed. This is, setup I try to make look good, but working with the situation that I have. So if you're interested in starting your own YouTube videos or want to see the exact breakdown of the setup that I currently use, as well as I'm going to be taking about a 20 to 30 minute question and answer session after that. I'm apparently called a professional YouTuber on this, and I don't know if how I feel about that just yet. I like to think that people think this is professional, but regardless, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and getting to talk about YouTube and what I've been doing for essentially now 10 years is going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate everyone in the live stream currently, all 21 of you. Hit me up in the chat of where you guys are located. I'm going to bust into just a few simple things in the news that I think are kind of cool that happened this week. And let's get started. So first off, you're going to see the Norco Search XR, a suspension gravel bike. This is, as far as I know, and I could be very wrong, again, please comment in the live chat if I am on what bike models might have this, but this is that new Sun Tour gravel fork that we discussed on ACN when this actually debuted. I believe this is the first production bike that I've physically seen with it being used. It is a multi-level travel fork, so I believe they have it from a 40 to a 60 millimeter, but this is the first production bike that I've seen use it, and they're using the 50 millimeter setup on this bike. So as you can see here, it's going to come with that fork stock. And again, this is, in my opinion, the first bike that I've seen with it. And you're going to get the fork clearance with this as of a 700 by 45 millimeter tire. And they're going to have obviously a range of sizes in this. And they did also come out with just a Search XR flat bar. I'm definitely seeing this trend. If you look at kind of any major brands that are going on right now, it is something that they're kind of doing just across the board of flat bar and a lot of these gravel bikes. Again, kind of the running joke is turning them into a 90s rigid mountain bike. So before I get into the next thing, appreciate everybody from all over the place. From far northern California. Yeah, that sounds about right. A lot of people all over the place tuning in from New Mexico. We got Singapore in the house. That's awesome. New York. Yeah, this is great. Appreciate everybody in here. Yeah, or this is just a new hybrid. That's another rant I don't know if I want to do a live stream about, but I really think that basically all hybrids at these days should be basically one by, just for simplicity, especially for a newer rider. Dealing with one shifter is obviously a lot easier to figure out than dealing with two, and understanding how, your shifters work, especially if they're numbered, they get kind of confusing. Got another person from the UK and Toronto. This is awesome. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in right now. So next we have, I'm gonna back out of here, so I'm not switching screens here. Next, we're gonna have the coolest kids bike that I've seen in quite a while. So if anybody's out there does have kids or a niece or nephew or wants to have kids, this is like the ultimate gravel kids bike that I've seen. It comes one by. It comes with disc brakes. It's got 3 pack mounts on the fork. So your kid or your very small adult or teenager could carry anything cages on this. And this is honestly a super awesome bike. It is a 24-inch wheel. It is spec'd with some Terry Vale tires. Still has down tube mounts. Only 1 bottle cage, obviously because of the frame size. I get that. I think they should have added the top tube mounts. This is going to come spec'd with the microshift. I believe it's 8-speed drivetrain. And this is going to be rated for riders from 4'7" to 5'2", or for everybody who uses centimeters for height, 139 centimeters to 158 centimeters. Let's see what this tire size actually is. So it does max out at a 2-inch tire for the 24-inch wheel size that it comes with. It comes with mechanical disc brakes, and it has a 36-tooth front ring. But stock, it's going to be spec'd with gear range of going to be an 1142, and then you're going to get a 24 by 1.85. But apparently, I don't know if anybody makes a 24 by 2.0, but you can spec up a size in a tire, and it's going to come in at $899. Obviously, it's going to come in this one solo size. It comes in the teal or the red color, and it's going to be roughly about 23 pounds. And as for a kid's bike, that's pretty light. So I think this is super rad to open up, gravel cycling to the new generation of cyclists that are out there. So last thing I'm going to talk about that I'm extremely excited about, that some of you may or may not have seen on Bike Rumor or other sites, is this. This is a company called Ratio that has basically 3D printed in, I believe it's steel or a metal material, to replace your ratcheting mechanism in your 11-speed SRAM shifters to make it 12-speed. Then they were able to figure out that, I believe it's GX and up rear derailleurs, you can essentially replace the piece of the derailleur that essentially is what's holding on to your cable. That is going to give you a different pull ratio, so that your road pull ratio is going to basically work with your mountain derailleur, because they're changing the ratio to a road ratio in 12 speed. So what they've essentially done is create a mechanical 12-speed version of your access level of gearing and range. So you're going to be able to use, again, any GX rear derailleur or up. And essentially, I've watched the videos, and we won't do that during the video here, but essentially for the derailleur, you're just replacing basically the piece that holds the cable and cinches it down, and then you're replacing your ratcheting piece inside the shifter. They have great tutorials for both mechanical and hydraulic shifters. This is literally the kit. This is all the parts that you're replacing. It's very simple. Trust me, I watched it. I thought it was going to be crazy, but you can see here they have great videos for both styles of shifter and a separate video for just the derailleur. And this is going to give you that full mullet range in a very affordable upgrade package. This is 49.97 euros, so that's going to be around $50 or $60 US, I believe, with the conversion rate. Not sure what the shipping is going to be, obviously, to the US, but I've already reached out to the company. So if you want to see this and if it actually works, I've already reached out. I'm trying to get a kit once they restock, because they were out. I believe they launched this about a month ago, so it is very, very new. But I'm extremely excited about this. I think this is awesome and a very affordable upgrade to go 12 speed. So my initial thoughts for this are, if you guys have watched my Cobalt Warhawk Monster Gravel build series, I did take a regular Apex 1 derailleur and add the Garber cage, which is rated to a 50 tooth capacity. The new from SRAM for their GX line and up is going to be the capacity for a 52 cassette, because obviously Shimano came out with a 51, so they had to come out with a 52. So that's something that I think, with the amount of B limit that I have left, what I'm going to initially try is see if I can swap the ratcheting mechanism in the Cobalt Warhawk, get that to 12 speed, then get a 12 speed 10 to 52 cassette, and see if I can initially use that with my Garber modified derailleur. So if you have an 11 speed derailleur and don't want to buy a GX, or if you've already modified yours with the Garber cage or something similar, that is something that I want to test out first, because I think with the amount of B limit, I could stretch that up to the 52 capacity currently on the bike. If that doesn't work, I'll obviously get a new GX rear derailleur and test that out myself. But I think this is super exciting. I think this is awesome, and the really power of 3D printing, especially in a metal material, because obviously you don't want your ratchet being plastic because it'll wear out or break very easily. I'm super excited about this. This is probably the most excited I've been about a product in a while that's so simple, yet complex at the same time. So I'm really excited about that coming out, because I desperately want to try it. So hopefully that'll come into my channel as sooner than later. Obviously, I'm still recovering from my crash, so I'm not going to be riding. So all these tinkering toys or DIYs and everything like that are going to be something that I'm going to be obviously filling up a lot of content for the channel coming soon. So that's something that I really am excited about doing to the bike, to convert it to 12 speed, so I can hopefully give everybody who's subscribed or watching the video now or later, a really affordable upgrade. Essentially, if you do it with a mountain cassette, you don't have to go to a 12 speed chain. You can run 11 speed. I've done it plenty of times. So realistically, the cost of a cassette and this 50 tooth adapter, potentially, if you have a extended range derailleur, will work. Or obviously, if you want to just purchase a new system, you can get a very affordable Apex shifter set with a GX rear derailleur and this kit, and kind of have the ultimate mechanical 11-speed drivetrain setup for very little money, especially compared to Access. So that's something I'm desperately wanting to try, and hope that it's coming to the channel sooner than later. So that's going to basically wrap it up for the really few cool things that I've been really excited about in the industry that's basically been out. So now I wanted to kind of break into the tire tech. I think this is something where, there are a lot of frames that are coming with bigger and bigger tires, but not every bike is being spec'd with a wider internal rim to support that tire. So back when all we were riding were rim brake bikes, or, even your cyclocross bikes that were still canty or whatever, your internal rim width was very small. So essentially think of your rim width, is set at a certain millimeter internally and externally, and your tire supporting on top of that. So as you get bigger and your rim width is staying the same, obviously at lower pressures or at higher speeds, your tire can kind of fold over and obviously affect the handling of the bike negatively, typically. So as these tires really start increasing, or clearance on frames start increasing, it's really something that I've noticed that a lot of people aren't really looking into as far as the rims that are coming on these stock bikes. Having a really small internal rim width with a very large tire is going to affect, again, the squirm or looseness of how the bike's going to feel. So it's not going to corner super well, or at really high speed corners when you're, applying a lot of G-forces into, let's say, a berm or anything like that. It's going to kind of fall over itself because it's not going to be able to basically be supported well. So anybody who's into cars, that a lot of drifters or guys that, are really into that stretch tire look, essentially what they're doing is they're getting a wider rim and stretching that tire out to increase their contact patch. And that's kind of the thought process when you're going wider tire on your bike. You need to widen that internal rim width to support that tire size that you're actually running. So that's going to be something that you really need to be on top of to optimize the safety and handling of the bike that you're riding. So as you increase the tire size, make sure to look at, is the internal rim width of your wheel optimized for the tire that you want to eventually buy, or maybe you're replacing the stock tire set and you want to go bigger. Obviously, you want to play it safe. So I found this really very easy way to look at that with the WTB tire and rim fit chart. I think they really simplified this. This is an amazing guide. You know what I'm going to do? I don't have it in the description currently, but I will be adding this post-stream because this really simplifies just a way to look at, is this a smart idea for you to go this wide of tire on the rims that you currently have? Now, if you don't know the internal rim width of your current wheel set, obviously that's going to be easiest to determine with a caliper after you take the tire off. If you don't want to do that, roughly whatever your external width is, typically if you're a hooked internal, you're looking at a 2 to 3, maybe 4 millimeter decrease as far as internal rim width. Meaning if you're a 30 external rim, something kind of on the wide side, you're probably going to be at a 25 or a 26-ish internal rim width. Now, that's not going to be the rule of thumb, but you can kind of give you the ballpark. So if you have no idea, all you got to do is measure the outside rim width of your rims that you currently have, and it's probably going to be at least at minimum 2 millimeters, obviously smaller, but most likely it's going to be closer to 4 or 5, to give you an idea of what the internal rim width of your stock wheels are if you don't feel like either taking the tires off or maybe the converted tubeless and you don't want the mess. So again, I will link this chart in the description after this live stream is posted. But you can see here, essentially what they're doing is they're showing you the millimeter of the internal rim width starting at 13 all the way to 51, which is, I believe, a fat bike. And then your tire sizes from 23C all the way to 50C. And obviously a lot of mountain tires now are capable to fit on a, gravel bike, but this works with road or mountain. And they even have a mountain chart to show you the wider tire widths from 47 at the smallest, which would be your 650B by 47, all the way to a 72, which basically equates to a 3-inch. So when you're looking for a fat, real true fat bike, compatibility, this chart's not going to help you out, but basically anybody under a 3-inch tire, regardless of the size, 700 or 650B, this chart is going to basically be a really helpful guide that you can use when looking to see if the tire you want to get is actually recommended for the internal rim width that you're running. So let's just look at this real quick and kind of give you an idea. Let's start with your typical gravel bike. You're typically going to have something between, let's say, a 40 to a 45 is kind of the stock tire dimension for some gravel bikes. Obviously, some are coming with bigger tires stock now because clearances are increasing. But if you're looking at a 40 or 42 tire size, they are saying basically the dots mean they're compatible, but the fully enclosed boxes here mean they're recommended. Meaning that, let's say your 42 size is what you're going to get on your bike. They're recommending at minimum a 19 millimeter internal rim width. Obviously, as that rim width increases internally, it's going to support the tire better, meaning it's going to basically be less bulbous and it's going to create more contact patch with the road to create more traction. So you don't want too much contact, because obviously that's going to create more drag. But if you're looking for ultimate traction, the wider on the end of the spectrum for any tire size is going to corner a lot better, but your drag in the center is going to be slightly more increased because more of the tire is essentially going to be hitting the ground. So you're looking at essentially what they're recommending between a 19 millimeter up to a 25 millimeter internal rim width for as small as a 42 centimeter tire. When you go up to the 50Cs, which is kind of a new standard that's coming through, I have some 50C Venture tires. Again, they're recommending essentially the same rim width. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend running the 50C tire anything below a 25 internal, ideally, because I've run them on something that was 21 internal, and it actually shrank the tire down to about a 47 because it made it so tall, and it definitely didn't handle as well. So does it work? Yes. If you're a really great technical rider or you have really challenging terrain that you're riding on, that is something that's going to be affected going on the smaller side of the internal rim width. So keep that in mind when you're buying tires. It is something to definitely keep in mind because it is going to affect the overall handling of the tire when doing that. So again, you can reference this guide anytime. When we look into the mountain category, which is something I was looking into because as you guys have seen, hopefully, the Poseidon Redwood was a bike that I reviewed recently. I'm hopefully going to be doing a flat bar conversion on that to basically turn into a rigid mountain bike and going bigger tire than stock. So I wanted to see realistically, that 2.5 to 2.6 range that bike clears. What's the ideal internal rim width for that tire? Because I honestly wasn't sure. So if you look here, obviously 2.6 is going to be the big end. And shout out to, I believe it's Dana Mighty 16. He put 2.6s on his Redwood and it still had clearance. So that's what I'm going to be running. So I'm going to be running at the upper end of the spectrum at the 65 millimeter equivalent or 2.6 inch in a 650B. So it's asking for essentially at minimum a 29 internal. And I haven't measured exactly what the Poseidon Redwood rims internally are. I want to say they're at least a 30 millimeter. They may be slightly bigger, but even that, yes, is at the lower end spectrum, but it's not terrible because I'm going from basically a 2.35 to 2.6. So it is increasing, obviously, but it is something I'm going to be looking for in a upgraded wheel set later in the line for review. I'm going to be looking for something in that 35 millimeter range, as you can see here on the chart, at minimum to support that bigger 2.6 inch tire that I have coming on the way. So that is something that is something to look forward to or look for when either upgrading your rims or looking to up your tire size. Always double check to see if it is recommended for the internal rim width that you're currently running on your bike's wheel set. And if you're running multiple wheel sets, obviously you want to have tires that are appropriate for each internal rim width. So for example, I have some Road Aero Whiskey wheels and I run, those are 21 internal, so I run like a 32 to 35, ideally for road on that wheel set. My Scribe Carbon wheels I just got in for review that will be out eventually on this channel. Those are 25 millimeter internal, so I'm going to run my 50C Ventures on those. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen pictures of those wheels on that bike, and it does really support the tire a lot better and does make it basically less bulgy out of off of the rim. So it's going to handle better and handle lower pressures better than that. So that's something where I'm looking for, again, a 30 to 35 millimeter internal rim width for a wheel set that I'd like to eventually review and upgrade on the Poseidon Redwood to support, again, those 2.6 inch tires I have on the way. So let's open it up to questions. It's been a quick 25 minutes, so I hope everybody's been enjoying this so far. I'm going to go back through the comments real quick as you guys are typing away. So here's a question. Do I prefer 650 or 700C wheel sets and why? So this is a question we've kind of talked about on ACN, but I'll mention my thoughts on it again. It's very different. So if you have a gravel bike and you're really trying to make it dual purpose, I think both wheel sizes are valid for different things and different reasons. So right off the bat, no matter what bike you're riding, 700 or basically a 29 inch, rim versus a 650B, the big pros and cons for both are your 650B is going to be most likely the wheel is going to be a little lighter if you're running the same tire size, obviously. But being a smaller diameter, it's going to be better for your more technical trails. So your single track or anything like that is going to be really where this tire and wheel size is going to shine. So it's going to be something that's going to be better for those kinds of rides. 29er is going to be potentially a little heavier, a little more sluggish, but it's going to roll over larger obstacles better because obviously it's going to lift your bottom bracket. It's going to maintain and carry speed a lot easier. So that's why for most people, I tell them, like, I run a 650 by 2.2 because my frame clears for most of my gravel rides. Now, could I be faster on a 700 by 45 on some? Sure, but just a kind of, I'd rather have more tire just in case it's a new trail. I don't know what it's going to be like. I can basically just be over-tired just in case because my bicycle handling skill set is not the best, and I definitely could improve. And then for your 700C wheels, I've ridden them in dirt too. Again, I've run the Venture 50C tires, and I do have a review for those as well on my channel. It does affect your line choice. It does make you kind of have to sweep wider to kind of tuck into a corner. So it isn't going to be as nimble handling. You're not going to have that kind of quick last minute ditch effort, like change of direction that's going to work as well for you between a 700 versus a 650B. So my ideal setup right now is like a 700 by 35 or 38 in a road wheel setup for your gravel bike, and then a 700 or a 650B by like 2.0 to 2.2. That's going to make your bottom bracket height very similar between the two wheel sets, and obviously be very different. You have a very lightweight, great long distance setup, and then your ultra gravel setup. So it really depends. If I had a ton of hero gravel and nothing super chunky around me, or the trails that I have local to me, I'd probably exclusively ride 700, to be honest. All right, let's see. Yeah, plenty of rims labeled the width too. So if you can't find it online, but you can find the name of the wheel set, check it out on their website and see what you can find out. Luke says, try some Jones bars on the Redwood. That is something that, trust me, my ideal setup, just to let you guys know, is, again, turning that kind of into a rigid-ish mountain bike is kind of the goal for that bike, to then in turn test out more flat or alt bars for a bike so that I'm not constantly changing shifters and cables and everything like that. So that bike ideally is going to be kind of turned into that, the ultimate like rigid mountain bike version of itself, bike packing rig, as well as my test bed for more mountain style or alt style cycling parts. I appreciate it, Jamie. Yeah, I appreciate you guys, if you're watching this, to hit the like button. It really does help with the channel. I'm obviously trying to do this full time and doing this for you guys since ACN is not able to run tonight. And again, I will be having a video coming out tomorrow, so make sure to turn notifications on if you haven't already. Is now giving a recommended inner rim size for his Rene Hurst tires. That's awesome. That, again, I think any tire manufacturer, if they haven't already, it'd be surprising. But yes, they should recommend what internal rim width you should run for the said tire that they are producing for you. Because obviously, if they're testing the wheel out, they know what the reviewers or their test riders or team riders or whoever in the company is doing this, they're going to know what is going to be the most optimal wheel setup for said tire to support it and have it perform the best. My Marin Gestalt won't fit fat rubber in 700, but can fit 650B by 48 because of the short chainstays. So yeah, that is definitely something that right now I think the market is really going to start changing, because you're kind of in two camps. You're either in that 700 by 40 and 650B by 47 kind of clearance range, or you're beyond that and you're going to be clearing like a 2.0 650 and a 700 by 45, give or take. So there is going to be more of a split in the gravel market, because obviously the tighter chainstays and less tire clearance is going to help with handling and turn in, but your more relaxed geometries or longer wheelbase bikes that clear more, obviously you're going to be more stable and more comfortable, depending on what you're riding. So that's definitely something that when you're buying a gravel bike, you're really going to have to look into what your really needs are and where you see your needs being later in the future. For me, I've watched plenty of gravel race videos. I don't see myself running 700 by 40s on these crazy technical gravel races because I don't have the skill set to back it up. So yes, it would be faster and save me some wattage, but I'd rather have the tire to save me in a potential crash situation. So that's me. So I prefer clearance over, the the tighter handling or, again, the smaller size. But again, that's because of my skill set and the area that I live in. I'm looking for that kind of setup. What do you consider a good deal on a tire? How much can you expect a discount on a sale? Honestly, Luke, you know, there are certain commodities that you can't expect to save a ton on, because it's got to be good quality. Any tubeless tire nowadays, you know, is going to be between roughly that $40 to $60 mark. There are some that are obviously above that, and there are some that are below that. I'm a big fan of WTB and Panaracer so far, and all the tires that I've tested from them as far as like mounting and setup. I have had run some Continentals as well in the past, but they weren't the tubeless versions. So honestly, shop around. If you can find a deal, great. Right now with COVID going on, it's hard to find parts in general. So be happy if you can get it at a relative decent time frame once you order it. But that's something that you really kind of have to just see what's out there and what tires you like. So don't always go for the budget option. Find the tire that's going to be well suited for the terrain and style of riding that you like, and then see if you like it. There is a little bit of a crapshoot with tires, obviously. And just because if you have a lot of flats with tire doesn't mean the tire is bad. It could be the sealant choice that you're using, or maybe your plug system. So I'd expect to spend between $40 to $60 per tire. Again, if there's some closeout deals, or maybe they're discontinuing a model, you could find them cheaper. But that's something I kind of what I've seen as far as the price point for most tires in general. Let's see here. Charlie just ordered some 700C Hunt Super Dare. It's 20 internal, I believe. Do you think I could run the Washburns in 42 with those tires? Well, Charlie, I will look at the chart that WTB recommends. I know they're not WTB tires, but a 20 mil internal rim width for that size of tire. They do recommend it. They said the smallest that they say is compatible is like a 19 or 17 mil, but they don't recommend it. 19 to 25 is what they recommend for a 42. So you're kind of a little bit closer to the small end, but I wouldn't really worry about it. Again, you might just not be able to run the lowest of pressure options if you had a wider internal rim, but I wouldn't worry about running that tire size on that rim. So inner tube sizes, you know, I would definitely run that tire tubeless. I'm a big fan. If you think tubeless is too expensive to do, I do have a video on how to go tubeless on a budget using some Gorilla Tape. So you can save some money there. But tube wise, honestly, you just got to get a tube that's rated for the tire size. So every tube that you're going to purchase is going to have a range that they recommend to run the tube in. Typically for a 40 mil, it's probably going to be like a 38 to a 42 size. You can get tire liners and thick tubes if you can get one in a Presta in that size, but they're going to be harder to find at the bigger sizes currently. So I've never been super loyal or really cared about tube brand back in the day. When I did run tubes, it was when I worked Performance, and I just got their like Forte tubes all day long and got the ultralights because it mattered to me at the time. Okay, if your gravel tire fits multiple rim sizes, how do you decide to go with smaller or larger? I always say, honestly, for me, going larger is going to just always get you more traction, no matter what, because, again, it's going to spread that tire out and support it better, so more of the tire is going to basically contact the ground, dirt, road, whatever. So that is something that I always recommend. Go to the larger end of it. Now, that is going to potentially push out the tire width a little. So if you're running real tight tire clearances, going super wide may cause some rubbing issues, but you just got to make that choice accordingly. So let's say your frame, you know, says it clears a 42, but you've run a 45 on the stock rims and it's close. If you go a lot wider on the rim with those 45s, you may stretch it out enough to actually rub on the frame. So that's the only time I would say don't go too wide on the rim if you're already kind of pushing your luck with tire clearance. Would you consider a flat bar gravel bike a gravel bike? Yeah. I mean, essentially, I think anything that's not going to be gravel bike, like I know, again, the running joke is they're all 90s mountain bikes. I think until the suspension's involved, that's when you're kind of crossing the line. Like if I put the Redwood on like a Lau Fork or one of those Sun Tours, if I could get something that would clear that tire, that would kind of be like a pseudo mountain bike at that point. I'm considering it a rigid mountain bike going flat bar, but with the slack angles and the trail numbers on that bike, it's kind of similar. I'm not real good with that kind of stuff with mountain because I've never owned a mountain bike, but it's not going to be super slack like a full trail bike, but it's going to be closer to it than it is a traditional gravel bike. Been impressed with the wear on the Soma Cazadeiros. Yeah, I've never tried those. I heard good things, seen good things about them, but I've never tried that tire. And again, those were kind of one of the first few that were available in that tire size, which again, essentially to anyone who doesn't know, a 700 and a 29er rim for your mountain bike. This would be a tire you could run on a mountain bike or like your Salsa Cutthroat that would clear. But for gravel, clearing to 50 is still pretty rare. My Cobalt Warhawk does do that. But there's not a ton of bikes in the market that do. Yeah, and here you go. Perfect example. I'm running 60dB by 47s on my gravel bike and love it for what I do. Exactly. It's really, honestly, this whole tire wheel size debate really does depend on the area you're riding and the gravel that you're riding of what's going to really work for you. Obviously, a 47 is going to be a lot lighter than a 2.2. So if I didn't need the extra, tire grip or volume, I could run a lighter weight setup, and be less effort. So that's something that it really does depend on what you're doing. What budget mid-tier wheels do you recommend? So budget obviously is something that is going to be, to everyone's preference as far as what budget really means. For me, the two companies that really stand out, and I will be doing a review for them eventually. I do granted have their more baller wheel set, but Scribe Cycling, I just got some of their carbon wide plus 700C rims. Those I think are affordable for being carbon, but they do have some alloy wheel sets as well. And Hunt has a lot of great wheel sets for the money. I think both of those have wheel sets the other doesn't at different price points. I think Scribe has some great, more affordable carbon options in the wider widths than Hunt does, but Hunt has a very good program and plethora of options no matter kind of what you're riding. And I think that Hunt has more affordable aluminum option rims, but I take a look at both of those. I think they're both, for that nowadays, $400 to $500, even at the 350 range, you can really buy a substantially better wheel set than stock, where before, back in the day, a few years back, you really had to spend $500 to $750, I'd say, to really get a substantially better wheel set than what kind of came on most bikes. So if anybody's got any more questions, I'm willing to take them. Obviously, if there's not a whole lot going on in the chat, I will be, closing this up early, but I'm here for you guys till 6 if you have any more questions. But again, like I said, for budget wheels, there is a lot of cool options, I think, again, from different companies that are coming up, where before you really couldn't get anything substantially better. When I worked at a shop, that's used to what I used to, be what I'd tell people, like, look, 100 grams lighter or maybe 200 isn't worth $500 for nothing else besides a little bit of rotational weight. Now, obviously, rotational weight matters, but you used to have to spend a lot more to get something that was in that 300 to 450 gram weight drop, and maybe potentially, a hub body that you could swap out and upgrade later to an XD hub drive body or something like a lot of the new wheel sets are doing. So that obviously opens up options as far as upgrades later down the line, to where there's an investment there that makes your bike and your wheels more future proof. That makes sense because weight's not the only answer, but there's, again, a lot of cool, affordable brands that are doing that now for that lower price point. Why are some tire size in millimeters, some in inches? That's going to really basically, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is this way, but it seems like any road or gravel tire is going to be rated in the, millimeter or centimeter. And for whatever reason, a mountain tire is going to be said with an inch size. Now, there are plenty of tires that you can run on a mountain bike that, like the 700 by C or the 700 by 50C Ventures. Those are going to be a tire that I've seen guys run on their mountain bikes because it's essentially a 1.9 inch, and it's a great tire if you don't need a ton of grip and you want faster rolling. So for whatever reason, it just seems like mountain tires are always rated in inches. Not sure why, but maybe that'll change. But Probably won't. Here we go. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, as the saying goes, you can get it's either light, cheap, or durable. Pick two. You can't have all three. So that is definitely very true, especially when it comes to wheels, bikes, and basically almost anything else that's bike related. I'm pleased with my Hunt X Wides paired with the Renee Hurst. Awesome. Yeah. So Cycle YYZ, what's the internal rim width on those? Is that the 30 or the 35 internal? I think those are the ones that I've been trying to be interested in hopefully getting for review. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd love to. What are the best cost-effective weight upgrades? So this is something that if you haven't watched, Luke, my video series on my Monster Gravel bike build for the Cobalt Warhawk, I essentially wanted to try to get my bike below or at the same complete bike weight of what Cobalt had originally built. So they had a bike that they weighed with access on it. So obviously a lot more expensive group set. And I believe it was like 18.3 pounds with rigid seat posts and carbon bar and whatever. So I wanted to build a bike that was at that weight or ideally below it with my Apex group set. And all I did as far as weight savings goes is I effectively bought a lighter weight cassette and crank set. Because if you look at any group set, a majority of the weight difference in any group set is going to be in those two items. Everything else is going to be very minimal. So I did that and then basically looked into the wheel set. Those are the three main areas that you can effectively save a lot of weight. Now, wheels and crank, you got to look at the weight difference and see what's most cost effective. You can get, for instance, for number's sake, a SRAM Force crank set for, let's call it for the arms, 140, 150 bucks. Those are going to be, compared to an Apex crank, probably 350 grams or so lighter for, again, not a lot of money. Now, to get a wheel set that's 150 grams lighter might not cost you a whole lot, but in something that 400 or so grams are essentially a pound difference, you're going to be spending a lot more money depending on what and how cheap your wheel set is that comes on at stock. So those are the areas I definitely look for in first. Rotational weight is always best to save because it's going to feel like the bike's lighter, more so than just like taking weight off like your handlebar. So 100 grams in the handlebar versus 100 grams in your crank, you're going to feel like your bike's a lot lighter, saving weight in the crank set. So look at the crank set and wheels first. Cassette is an easy way to do it as well as far as overall group set weight. If you have, let's say, 105 or GRX or something like that, and depending on what the bike's spec'd with, if it's spec'd with like a Suntour cassette instead of an actual Shimano one, things like that, or maybe some aftermarket options, that's really where you can save a lot of weight for not the most money. Let's see here. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, thanks for all the questions, guys. I'm trying to scroll through and get to everybody. What wheel set do you recommend for a Clydesdale rider? Honestly, if you are on the heavier side, just look for a wheel set that's, a good reputable brand and ideally a higher spoke count. Depending on where you're sitting at, you're going to want a minimum a 28 wheel set. Most likely for anybody who is, the Clydesdale group, the 32 to a 36 spoke wheel is obviously the more spokes, the stronger the wheel is going to be. And the shorter the spokes, the stronger the wheel is going to be. So if you have a deeper section rim, you need less spoke, which is going to be obviously the area where the wheel can flex. So combining those two things, is going to help as far as wheel strength. Most wheel sets nowadays are built pretty well to where they recommend if you are on the upper end of the weight scale, you're probably just going to have to true them more often and potentially respoke that wheel obviously sooner than somebody else. Yeah, this is also great. Yeah, tires can save some weight. There's a lot of stock tires that, depending on the bike that you're buying, can be very, very, very heavy. So it's a very easy upgrade to improve either the traction or the weight or the potential speed and drag of any bike with simply a tire swap. So again, look at the terrain that you're riding and what you think you need. So, and buy accordingly. Obviously I try to create as many tire reviews as I can. There's tons of them out there and you can see what is recommended for maybe your type of road or gravel or mountain or trails or whatever that's recommended. And go from there because, for numbers sake, on my Cobalt, I run 2.2s and I have some S-Works fast tracks. And those are like stupid light. They're 2.2 inch and 550 grams. And for instance, my, WTB byways, which obviously are a thicker casing and more puncture resistant, those are a 700 or a 650B by 47, which essentially is like a 8.9 or something like that. So obviously a smaller tire, and they're the same weight. They're both rated at 550 grams. So I went up in tire size, but didn't increase the bike weight any. So, depending on how you shop, you could go the other way. Obviously, the most stock tires can be heavier than potentially some aftermarket options if you're looking for weight savings. But obviously, puncture resistance, they have to add material to the tire, so it's going to increase weight. So if you're having a lot of flats in your tire size, you may have to increase a little bit of weight and rolling resistance, so that you're not, dealing with flats as often. Luke with a ton of good questions. Do you think Clydesdale status should affect actual bike choice? Potentially. I mean, I definitely wouldn't get like a super weight weenie climber bike with, a saddle with carbon rails and 20 spoke wheels, things like that. If you're a heftier rider, now, can you ride the bike? Sure. Are you more likely to break or stress certain parts? Yes. Are you going to have to show the wheels more? 100%. So it's not necessarily something you have to stick away from, but just means the bike's going to need more maintenance or things might have to be replaced more often. I can lose 800 grams by changing the tires, but don't like the idea of a fragile sidewall. Sure. Rick, I did watch a great, forgot who put it on. It might have been Russ from Pathless Pedals, I'm not sure, but it was a Renee Hurst one where they were talking about their extra light casings versus their, really rugged casings. And that was something he basically said was, depending on how long the race is, the extra light casing being so much lighter, you're going to save so much effort to where, depending on how long the event or the ride is, you might save so much time that even if you have a flat, you might be able to fix it and still be ahead of the curve at that point. Obviously, a sidewall cut is a sidewall cut, and I've fixed a few that, worked, but it's definitely something you not, things that you don't want to tempt. So it's something that, again, depending on the trails that you're riding, if there's a lot of sharp rocks and you get a lot of sidewall punctures, then obviously puncture resistance is going to outweigh lightweight and potentially suppleness of the tire. So again, it's really going to depend on what you really need. James, you can still go carbon. You just got to look at the manufacturer and the wheel spec. You can still get some like 32 spoke carbon wheels and enjoy it. Just means that, again, you might have to true them a little bit more often. John, I don't know what apparently this turns into a Clydesdale conversation. I don't know what that would officially be called. I'm 185 pounds, so 200 kilograms, I believe, is right at 200-ish pounds. So I'm pretty close to Clydesdale weight, apparently, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you're heftier riders. Most lightweight components are going to, depending on how weight weenie they are going to be, rider weight rated between 150 to 200 pounds. Again, depending on how lightweight they get. Most like kind of mid-level lightweight stuff I've seen is typically at the 190 pound rider to 200-ish, 210 is what I've seen. Anything below that is going to be your really boutique-y, super expensive stuff. So I appreciate all 71 of you in the chat. Please give this video a thumbs up if you're liking it and watching this content. Again, hopefully we'll have ACN in some capacity next week. If you want to help support the channel, I do have a Spreadshirt with some cool merch in there. If you haven't seen it already, my Slow But Look Pro merch that I've come out with that I think is really awesome, as well as my Pateron. If you guys are looking for one-on-one bike consultations, I do offer that at the upper 2 tier levels. So if you want to spend 30 minutes to an hour with me discussing maybe your next bike purchase or wheel purchase or part purchase or compatibility or fit issues or anything like that, I do offer that at my upper tier levels for Patreon as a thank you for helping support this channel. Because again, this is my full-time gig right now. This is the only way I am currently making money to try to make ends meet. So I appreciate everybody. If there's any few questions, I will give this another few minutes before I'm going to wrap this up. Luke, it is the thick boys of cycling. So please, whenever you're referring to, the heavier set guys, you're the thick boys of cycling, not the fat riders. So definitely believe in that. Thick boys of cycling is something I've been debating on putting on a t-shirt. So if you guys like that idea, leave a comment in the comments below and give this video a like. If you think I should have a thick boys of cycling t-shirt for all of us, thick boy or thick men. You know, I don't know if I should have both, but that's something I've been debating on. So hope you guys like this. Any few questions, I'm going to give it another minute or so to look at the chat. I'm watching you guys. Again, I appreciate all 74 of you that are currently in here. Oh God, saddled meat. I don't know if I like that. And I don't think that would be a great thing on a t-shirt. Oh, this is tough, especially for the last few minutes. Honestly, I don't know anything currently off the top of my head that's under the $600 mark. I apologize. Again, the two bikes I've ridden recently are going to be under 1,000 at the state bike Poseidon, the state bike All Road Steel and the Poseidon Redwood. If this is something you want to discuss and have a few bikes in mind, this is a great example of a question for my Patreon. Again, that 30 or 60-minute option. This is something I would do if you have a few bikes you're looking at. We can discuss it. I want to know more about you, what really matters, what kind of riding you're trying to do, so I can make a recommendation on that. But that's more of a one-on-one thing. So if you want to do that, again, links for that are in the description. Let's see. Do you have a recommendation for tire size or rim width? I've heard 70%. So realistically, yeah, I'd look at the tire chart. I obviously, if you're whatever tire size you're running, I try to get closest to the middle at minimum. As far as recommended rim width, because obviously, depending on the tires that you're running on your bike, if you're changing tires like I do, you may want some functional range that will still work if you want to go smaller or bigger. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. James has got a little off the rails. But again, I'm going to wrap this up here. I appreciate everybody in that. Again, links for my Instagram and Facebook in the description below. Hope you guys like this live stream and all of the craziness that happened. And apparently thick boys of cycling or thick men of cycling may be coming to a Spreadshirt near you. So again, leave a comment in the comments below if you guys definitely want to see me try to make a design for that and would wear that when you're out riding, repping the thick boy community out there on bicycles. So thanks for watching another live stream from Locked In.